The envelope felt heavy in my hand, cream-colored, thick, and sealed with a gleaming gold foil emblem of a private yacht slicing through deep blue waves. Inside, in flowing calligraphy, was the invitation to the Langston family's Caribbean cruise, a grand celebration of legacy and prestige. I traced the elegant lettering with my thumb, recalling last year's sting when my cousin Bennett had conveniently left me off the guest list. This time, they wouldn't forget me. I made sure of that. My name is Natalie Langston. I'm 36, and this summer, I was about to give my family a surprise worthy of a movie. Just as I finished signing off on the final merger papers for my company, my phone buzzed. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I picked up. "Natalie," she said, her voice sweet but tight. "We need to talk about the cruise." Leaning back in my chair, I looked out through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my Manhattan office on the 58th floor. Below, the harbor stretched wide and docked with Celestia, the 280-foot yacht my family thought they'd rented for their extravagant reunion. "What about it, Mom?" I asked. A pause, then a sigh. "Your Uncle Bennett and I agree. This year's cruise needs to be curated, carefully curated." Outside on the dock, crew members in crisp white uniforms polished the brass rails and aligned deck chairs. My deck, my crew. "There'll be some very high-profile guests," she continued. "Your father's new associates, Bennett's European investors. We have to protect the family's image." Ah, the image. The Langstons, polished, perfect, with Ivy League pedigrees and country club smiles. And me, the disappointment, the dropout who'd walked away from the family firm to chase a startup. A startup that just acquired their biggest competitor in a $5 billion deal. "And I don't fit the image," I said calmly, watching a junior yacht glide by in the harbor. "Natalie, let's not make this awkward," she said. "People ask about you. That online business? It's not real success." I smiled at the ownership contract lying on my desk. That online business had just bought the very yacht they thought they rented. "I understand, Mom," I said quietly. She exhaled, relieved. "Good. Bennett was worried you'd try to show up anyway." "Oh," I said, standing and smoothing my blazer. "Don't worry, I'll be there. And trust me, they'll know exactly who owns the yacht, who was handed everything on a silver platter while I built my empire brick by digital brick. No drama, I promised." Voice smooth. "But I think I'll stop by the marina anyway, just to see them off." "Oh, Natalie, that's not necessary," my mother protested. "I insist," I cut in gently. "Family is family, after all." After hanging up, I tapped my intercom. "Maria, is everything ready for tomorrow?" "Yes, Ms. Langston," my assistant replied. "The captain and crew are fully briefed, though." She hesitated. "Are you sure you want to do this your way?" I leaned back, memories flashing, every holiday dinner seated with the kids even in my 30s. The New Year's brunch where Bennett's modest real estate win was toasted while my multi-million-dollar funding was ignored. The quiet, persistent offers from relatives to help me find a real job. "Absolutely," I said. "Let's get started." The next morning, I parked a sleek black sedan at the edge of the private marina. From my window, I watched the Langstons arrive in style, Bennett's cherry red Ferrari, Dad's white Bentley, Mom's pearl Range Rover, each more ostentatious than the last. I stepped out into the crisp summer air, dressed simply in white linen pants and a loose cream blouse. My minimalist look stood in sharp contrast to their deck-ready couture, Gucci sandals, gold-rimmed sunglasses, logo emblazoned bags. "Natalie," Bennett called, smirking, "came to see what real success looks like." He gestured toward the Aurelia, the 280-foot superyacht they thought was theirs for the week. "My yacht," I said quietly, "which I bought and renovated over the winter." "Something like that," I said, smiling. Mom planted an air kiss on my cheek. "You really didn't have to come, darling. I know this might be hard for you." I glanced at the crew, my crew, moving swiftly, loading bags, lining up champagne flutes, preparing cocktails. "Not at all," I said. "I just want to make sure everything goes perfectly." "Perfect for what?" My father appeared, adjusting his cufflinks with that familiar, slow precision. Bennett laughed, sharp and dismissive. "You're not still planning to tag along, are you?" This cruise is for real success stories. No charity cases allowed. His entourage of fresh-faced executives from the family firm chuckled uneasily, eyes flicking between us. I recognized half of them from the Forbes 30 Under 30, I said dryly. Most placed their thanks to the Langston name, of course. Now, my mother interjected sweetly, placing a gentle hand on Bennett's arm. I'm sure Natalie understands. This cruise is business. There are standards to uphold. More guests arrived, venture capitalists, hedge fund managers, legacy investors, socialites. I knew most from previous negotiations, press releases, startup conferences. What none of them knew yet was whose name was on the deed of the yacht they were about to board, and that was about to change. Board meetings, investor summits, high-level briefings, they'd all seen me before, never realizing who I really was. I preferred it that way, low profile, maximum control. Miss Langston, a voice called from the yacht. We're ready to begin boarding. My father's brow furrowed. That's odd. The captain should be addressing me. I arranged this charter, Uncle Bennett said confidently. Months ago, I added coolly. Did you? I tilted my head. Are you sure about that? Before he could sputter, the captain appeared at the gangway, his crisp white uniform gleaming in the sunlight. Bennett stepped forward, hand outstretched. Captain, I'm Bennett Langston. We spoke on the phone about the itinerary. The captain brushed past him, stopping in front of me. He saluted sharply. Welcome aboard your yacht, Miss Langston. Everything is prepared to your exact specifications. A wave of stunned silence rippled across the dock. Even the marina's usual hum seemed to hush. Your yacht. My mother's breath hitched. I smiled, pulling up a photo on my phone, me, 6 months ago, signing the ownership papers for the Aurelia, my initials etched into the gold pen. Did you really think you could rent one of the world's most exclusive superyachts for your little networking cruise? I asked softly. The Aurelia hasn't accepted outside clients since I acquired her, along with the entire marina. Bennett's face drained of color. That's impossible. This yacht costs $180 million. I finished his sentence. Give or take another 10 for the upgrades. I held out the phone as proof. Want to see the paperwork? But that was just the beginning. They had no idea. The whole cruise itinerary they'd clung to for prestige was about to be rewritten by me. For a long moment, the only sound was the gentle lap of water against the hull. My father recovered first, stepping forward with his practiced, concerned patriarch look. Natalie, he said quietly, let's discuss this. If you've reached this level of success, perhaps it's time to fold your company into Langston Capital, for the good of the family. I laughed softly, recalling how he'd once tossed my pitch deck into the trash without reading past the first page. You mean the business you called a delusion 5 years ago? I asked. The one that didn't deserve the Langston name? He waved dismissively. The past is the past. We're talking legacy now. I faced him fully, voice steady, unshakable. Exactly, and I'm here to redefine it. If you think that shocked them, wait until you see what happened once we set sail. Let's talk legacy, I said, turning to the crowd gathered on the dock. Some whispered behind sunglasses, others stared openly, mouths slightly agape. 6 years ago, I pitched my tech startup to Langston Capital. I glanced at my father and Bennett. They spent 20 minutes explaining why it would fail, then offered me a job as Bennett's assistant. He shifted uncomfortably, suddenly very interested in his cufflinks. What they didn't know, I'd already locked in 3 rounds of funding. By the time they finished their lecture, I had $50 million in venture capital secured. My mother's perfect social smile faltered. But you work out of that little office in Soho. This little office? I smiled. It's the entire top floor of the Langston building, which, incidentally, I bought last year. You might have noticed the sudden rent hike. My father's face went pale. The Langston building was his pride and joy, until an anonymous buyer tripled the rent, pushing him uptown. That was you? I nodded. Along with most of the commercial real estate in the district, I enjoy smart acquisitions. Bennett stepped forward, suddenly all charm again. Clearly, we misjudged you, but now that we know, we can work together. Think of the potential. Oh, I've been thinking, I replied. I gave a subtle nod to the captain, who stepped forward and handed a thick folder to my father. "What's this?" he asked, flipping it open, and stopped cold. "Ownership transfer paperwork," I said. "Langston Capital hasn't been doing so well lately. Risky trades, vanishing clients, the SEC sniffing around." Bennett's face paled. "How do you know about that?" he demanded. "I know everything," I said coldly, "including the fact that unless you get a massive cash infusion by month's end, the firm's finished." My voice softened just enough to sting. "Lucky for you, I'm willing to buy it, at 30 cents on the dollar." The folder slipped from my father's trembling hands, pages fluttering across the dock. My mother knelt to gather them, her diamond bracelet catching the sunlight, but that meant one thing: I'd own it all. The firm, the building, the Langston name in finance, every symbol of their power, and what they valued more than me. One of Bennett's junior associates cleared his throat and stepped forward. "I should mention, I already work for Natalie," he said quietly. "Many of us do. She's been quietly acquiring firms across the city." Several others nodded. A few even shifted physically, edging away from my family and closer to me. The shift wasn't subtle, it was seismic. "Now then," I said, facing my stunned family, "let's talk about this cruise. I think it's time we reviewed the actual guest list." I gestured to Maria, who stepped forward with the calm, efficient grace that had helped me build this empire. She handed out new itineraries. "You'll notice some changes," I said smoothly. "This is no longer a social cruise. It's the kickoff event for the East Coast Tech Futures Conference. 20 of the most innovative startups in the country will pitch their visions aboard my yacht." I let it settle, then added, "Real entrepreneurs, builders, not trust fund heirs playing at executives." Bennett's face flushed a deep plum. "You can't do this," he snapped. "These are our guests." A man near the front, one of Bennett's friends, cleared his throat. "Actually," he said, "we're here because Miss Langston invited us. Your firm's been underwhelming lately. We're exploring better options." My mother sank onto a nearby bench, her flawless posture crumbling for the first time in decades. "All this time," she whispered, "you let us think I was a failure." I raised an eyebrow. "Yes, I did. I wanted to see how far you'd go, how much you'd enjoy dismissing me. Think of it as a social experiment." My father's voice cracked. "An experiment?" I nodded. "And one you failed spectacularly." I turned to the captain. "Please begin boarding the actual guests." The dock crew moved into action. My family stood frozen. "The Langstons," I added, "will be taking the tender back to shore." "Wait," my mother gasped. "The tender? The small boat?" I smiled, voice light. "The big ones are too expensive for people who call others failures." As my real guests, tech founders, coders, investors, creators, boarded, I stopped my family with one last gesture. "Before you go," I said, handing each of them an envelope with a photo inside. On the dock, surrounded by wealth they never truly owned, wearing expressions of stunned disbelief as the truth settled. "Something to remember the day your daughter rewrote the legacy." "Oh, and Dad," I added, "regarding Langston Capital, you have 24 hours to accept my offer before I notify the SEC. I'm sure they'll be very interested in Marcus Creative Accounting." "You'd do that to your own family?" my mother gasped. "Family?" I repeated. "Was it family when you excluded me? When you called me a disappointment?" Silence. "The funny thing is," I said, "my little startup just hit a market cap of $12 billion. That's 12 times what Langston Capital was worth." I glanced at Bennett. "Before the embezzlement, of course." He choked on the words. I turned to the captain. "We're ready to depart. Your ride's waiting," I said, "unless you'd prefer to swim." Reluctantly, they turned. My mother paused at the dock's edge, her heels wobbling. "Natalie, we're sorry, we didn't know." "That's the problem," I said quietly. "You never wanted to know." I watched them board the tender, a modest boat now weighed down by expensive luggage and even heavier egos. They looked like mannequins from a broken window display, designer clothes, defeated stares, fading status. Then I turned and walked up the gangway of my yacht, the Aurelia, my $180 million Declaration of Independence. Maria met me at the top. Everything's prepared, Miss Langston, she said. Though, was the tender really necessary? They could have called a car, I said, smiling faintly as the boat bobbed behind us. But a short ride in humility felt more fitting. The next week, every major business publication ran the headline. Tech billionaire Natalie Langston acquires family firm and rewrites the rules. Photos flooded the media, me at the helm during sunset. Panels of young founders pitching on deck. 8-figure deals inked over champagne. The SEC investigation followed days later. Then criminal charges. My father's name lost what little credibility remained. The Langston legacy in finance crumbled. But I left them one final gift. When they returned home, each found a small box on their doorstep. Inside, a miniature model of the tender boat they'd been forced to ride, complete with chipped paint and scuffed seats. Tucked inside was a handwritten note. Success isn't about the size of your boat, it's about the size of your vision. Thanks for the lesson by example. 1 year later, an invitation arrived, a family dinner at a modest Italian restaurant in Midtown. No yachts, no photographers. I went, same white blouse, same linen pants, but the air in the room had changed. Marcus, thinner now and wearing an off-the-rack shirt, approached cautiously. Natalie, I'm sorry. I looked at the brother who once called me a joke. Sorry you dismissed me, or sorry you lost everything because of it? He didn't answer. I stood, lifted my glass. Success isn't about yachts or real estate or family names. It's about grit, vision, and believing in yourself when no one else will. I let the silence settle. Remember that next time you're tempted to call someone a failure. Outside, my phone buzzed with breaking news. My incubator had launched a tech hub for overlooked entrepreneurs. The photo showed creators like I once was, dismissed, underestimated, ready to change the world. Sometimes the biggest win isn't just proving them wrong. It's giving others the chance to prove themselves right. That little internet thing they mocked? It just acquired its 20th company. But who's counting? Well, maybe Marcus is from the mailroom. Entry level, no legacy hires allowed. If you've ever been underestimated, pushed aside, or called a failure, share your story below. And if you believe in quiet strength, long games, and making your own legacy, subscribe, share, and remember, never let someone else define your worth. Rewrite the rules.